So welcome to the show, Jay.
Jerry, thank you so much for inviting me to come along. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about that topic that I'm so excited about, that being private money, because using private money has had more of an impact on our business than anything else we've done since being full-time in real estate investing since 2003.
Fantastic. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you kind of got started in the private money world, where you came from, and kind of how you kind of met that journey?
Well, I didn't just wake up one morning and say, hey, I think I'll go raise me some private money. I actually backed into it. Success is a lousy teacher, but having a problem, making a mistake, failure is a fantastic teacher. And that's how I got into this world of private money. So here's the story. Carol Joy, my wife, and I, we started investing in single-family houses here in eastern North Carolina, full-time in 2003. And for the first 6 years, from 2003 until 2009, all I knew to do, Jerry, to get my deals funded was go to the local bank, get on my hands and knees, put my hands underneath my chin and say, please fund my deal. Please fund my deal. And, the banker would, make me pull up my skirt and look at all my personal assets and give me a colonoscopy and pull my credit and want financial statements. And so anyway, that process of getting my deals funded worked okay the first 6 years. But then in January 2009, I was sitting here at my desk, Jerry, and I had 2 houses under contract to purchase. And I thought everything was just great. I thought everything was great at the bank. I've done a ton of deals in 6 years. And so I called up my banker. His name was Steve. And got Steve on the phone, and we had a little chit-chat. So I'm telling him about these 2 deals that I've got under contract, the funding that's required. And then I learned on that telephone conversation that, unbeknownst to me, my line of credit's been closed with no notice. And I say to Steve, Steve, what in the world are you talking about? You've closed my line of credit. I said, what's going on? We've done a ton of deals. I got a great credit score. I've always made my payments on time. What's going on? He says, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, but you just gave me a financial crisis. I don't have a way to fund my 2 deals. So I hung up the phone, and I sat here for a moment, Jerry, and I want to share with your audience right now a very powerful question that I asked myself. And the answer to this question that I asked myself changed the trajectory and the success of my business. And the question I asked myself, I said, Jay, who do you know that can help you with your problem? And by the way, Jerry, these people are going around saying every problem's an opportunity. I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. Now, that answer to that problem can turn into an opportunity, which it did. But let's be real and face the facts. I had a problem. I got 2 deals under contract, earnest money tied up that I couldn't get back in 2009, and no way to fund my deals. So what am I going to do? I asked myself the question, who do I know that can help me with my problem? I immediately, Jerry, thought of a dear friend, Jeff Blankenship. In fact, Carol Joy and I saw Jeff and his wife Megan and their 4 kids this past weekend at a gospel a cappella singing event. And so I immediately thought of Jeff. He was living in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time, investing in real estate. And so I called him up and I told him what had just happened with my conversation with my banker. And Jeff immediately said, well, Jay, welcome to the club. I said, what club are you talking about? He said, the club of having the bank close your line of credit. The bank shut me down last week. I said, well, Jeff, how are you going to fund your real estate deals with no banking relationship? And Jeff says, well, Jay, have you ever thought or heard of private money? I said, no. He said, have you ever heard of self-directed IRA companies where individuals can take their retirement funds, transfer them over to a self-directed IRA company, and then they can loan out that money to us real estate investors, get high rates of return, and either get their interest back, either tax deferred or tax free? I said, Jeff, what in the world are you talking about? I never heard of any of that. And so Jeff introduced me to those concepts, and I studied private money, and I learned how the self-directed IRA strategy worked. And so what I did, Jerry, is I put together what I call my private lending program that I would teach and that I still teach today to individuals about learning about this opportunity to being a private lender. So I decided that I'm going to pay 8% in first position loans, 10% in second position loans. I'm going to have a way that they can get their money back in case of an emergency. So I was going to offer a 90-day call option in the promissory notes. The length of the note, I decided what I wanted on that, 2 years, and etc. Maximum loan to value. So in less than 90 days, I went about simply teaching people in my own warm market, people I go to church with, people in my cell phone, people at the Rotary Club. I just started sharing this opportunity. Well, you know what's interesting? I got 47 private lenders right now, Jerry, and you know what's interesting? Not one of them had ever heard of private money and private lending. None of them had ever heard of self-directed IRAs and how they can use existing retirement funds to become a passive real estate investor by being a private lender. So not one of them had ever heard of this until what did I do? I put on my teacher hat. I put on my teacher hat. And my teacher hat says private money teacher. And so here's a really, really important mindset to get straight. You see, desperation's got a smell to it. There's a writer downer. Desperation's got a smell. The worst time to be raising private money is when you need it for a deal. And you know, Jerry, since 2009, I've never asked anybody for money. I've never pitched a deal. And people say to me all the time, they'll say, Jay, how in the world have you got $8.5 million access to private money from individuals that you use over and over and over and over again, and you never asked for money and you never pitched a deal? So here's the secret sauce. We separate the conversation between sharing the program and having a deal to fund. If you bring up a deal to fund in the initial conversation of being a private lender, number one, I ask them to make too many decisions. And number two, I sound desperate. So first, we just teach the private lending opportunity with no deal attached to it. Because no matter what deal's attached to it, it's the same program, same interest rate, same criteria, same maximum loan to value, etc. And so once they tell us, and I don't have to ask, I mean, I'm teaching it. And by the way, I didn't run around town crazy like with my hair on fire. I mean, I love private lender luncheons. I invited 20 people to my luncheon and had my CPA there, my realtor, my real estate attorney. And it takes the same amount of time to do the PowerPoint presentation and teach this opportunity to 20 people as it does one person. You know, it only takes 20 minutes. So I raised $969,000 at just one private lender luncheon during that 90-day period. So anyway, I went about teaching. They tell me how much they've got to work with. They're interested in investing. Is it retirement funds? Do I need to introduce them to the self-directed IRA company? And then I tell them, here's exactly what I say to them, Jerry. I say, I'm going to put your money to work for you just as soon as possible. So then I call them back up. Now I'm going to share with your audience right now the exact script, the exact words I say when I've got a deal for them to fund without pitching the deal and not asking them to fund the deal. So, Jerry, let's say you're one of my new private lenders, and let's say you had $150,000 in retirement funds that you just weren't happy where they were. It was maybe at some main stock brokerage, or maybe it was a previous 401k where you worked. And at my advice and recommendation, you transferred your $150,000 over to the self-directed IRA company. So that money is sitting there waiting. You're waiting for the good news phone call. I told you, I'm going to put your money to work for you as soon as possible. So I call you up, you answer, we do a little chit chat, and then here's the script. I say, Jerry, I got great news for you. I can now put your money to work for you as I promised. I've got a house in Newport with an after repaired value of $200,000 under contract to purchase. The funding required is $150,000. And of course that matches up to your funds. Now, closing is going to be on this property next Thursday. I'll need for you to have your funds wired to my real estate attorney's trust account by next Wednesday. I'm going to have my real estate attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's the end of the conversation. It's like, I don't have to ask you, do you want to do the deal? Of course you want to do the deal for two reasons. Number one, I'm not bringing you a deal to fund unless it matches the criteria of the program that I already taught you. And secondly, your $150,000 isn't making any money until I put your money to work. So that's the overview as to how we attract money, never having to ask for money, lead with a servant's heart, no begging, no selling, no persuading, no chasing, offering it. See, there's no applications. You're already approved. We are the underwriter. The lender's not the underwriter of the deal. We are. So it's a total mind shift.
Absolutely. I love that you kind of present that in the way of, presenting the information, presenting kind of the criteria before you ever need the money, because I think that makes such a difference for people. Like you said, people can smell desperation. People know, I come from the world of mortgage and real estate, and, in that world, as the market slows down, you can sense the shift in people seeming desperate to close that next deal, people trying to convince people that a refinance makes sense when it's borderline at best, people trying to convince people that now's the time to sell their property when maybe it's not the time for them. So I think it's important to really just go out there with the mindset of educating, teaching about what it is that's possible, and then presenting it when it's ready. Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no pressure. Here's an opportunity that you might never have heard of. Well, my 47 private lenders, they never heard of private money, private lending, self-directed IRAs. And here's what's funny. Of my 47 private lenders, and by the way, your audience doesn't need 47 private lenders. You just need one or two to start, my very first one was $500,000. Jerry, can I take another minute and share how I got my first $500,000 without asking for any money?
Please.
So, I was cut off. I was cut off from the bank, told that story. So I put my program together, and it was on a Wednesday night at 7:30 at 209 Barber Road, Morehead City, North Carolina. That's where the Morehead City Church of Christ building is located. Carol Joy and I have been members there since 1988. And so I put my program together, and it was on 7:30 at night on Bible study. So we get there, I walk into the foyer, and I'm looking for Wayne is who I'm looking for. Wayne and I have known each other for some time. And I walk up to Wayne there in the foyer of the church building. I walk up to Wayne, I said, Wayne, after Bible study tonight, could we get together for a few minutes? I've got something I want to talk with you about confidentially. He said, sure. So we finish Bible study, we get together, we actually go down the hall into the nursery, shut the door, and I said, Wayne, and here's exactly what I said to Wayne. I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town. And he did. He was the original Zenith television dealer. Now, if you don't know who the Zenith television dealer is, you are too young to remember life before Walmart came to town. Because before Walmart came to town, that's where you went. You went to the Zenith television dealer to buy your TV. He would finance it for you. You actually brought them back and got them repaired. You didn't throw them in the garbage can like you do today. So anyway, and so he had put a television in practically everybody's home, right, in this area. He knew everybody. So back to what I said to Wayne. I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town. And here comes the magic phrase, Jerry. I said, I need your help. That's powerful right there. I need your help. Look, God created us to be on this planet to help other people. So when I said to Wayne, I need your help, his ears have perked up. I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town, and I need your help. And then I said to Wayne, Wayne, I've now opened up my real estate investing business to people I know and trust by referral only. And when you run across someone that is complaining about the money they're making in the local certificate of deposit at the bank and the volatility of the stock market, Would you refer them to me because I'm now paying insane high rates of return? Wayne looked at me and he says, well, now, Brother Jay, what you got going on there? I said, well, are you saying you might be interested? He said, well, I might be interested. I said, well, why is that? He said, well, me and my wife are only making 3%, and that's what it was in 2009. And it's coming back down there fast. Let me tell you, it's coming back down there fast. He said, we're only making 3% in the local bank in our CDs, and we're losing money in the stock market. He said, what kind of rates are you paying, Jay? And I said, well, that sort of depends on the deal. I said, but, what sounds high to you? And he said, well, we're making 3%. He said, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6%. I said, Wayne, I can't pay you 5 or 6%, but I can pay you 8%. He said, put me down for $250,000. And so the next day, I went to Wayne and his wife's home here in Morehead City, and I brought along my program that I've been referring to here as to, what interest rate I pay, how they can get their money back in case they need it, length of the note, frequency of payments, etc. So after 2 cups of coffee and talking about the opportunity, that $250,000 quickly became $500,000. And so they pledged that to me. They said, hey, we'd love to invest and start with $500,000. So let's analyze and unpack what happened. I didn't ask Wayne for money, right? I asked him for his help to just simply spread the word in his community about an opportunity that I have. Now he's curious for himself. I explained the program. They come on board, right? Bear in mind, I didn't bring up those 2 deals that I had under contract, right? Because we're separating the conversation between the program and actually doing deals. And by the way, I asked Wayne, for help to spread the word. Boy, did he and his wife spread the word. I've lost count how many people they referred to us, me and Carol Joy and our company, to become private lenders that are still private lenders with us today. So that's just another example of not asking for money. Private lender luncheons, another example of not asking for money. You're teaching them. You're teaching them about this world, this opportunity. In fact, I run a mastermind group, and I teach them in the mastermind exactly how to attract hundreds of thousands into the millions of private money for their deals without ever having to ask for it.
Absolutely. I love that. Tell me a little bit about how business owners can kind of take advantage of these same systems. Obviously, you're talking about IRAs and 401ks, and I think a lot of business owners, some of them have these things set up, some of them don't, but all of them have the opportunity to do the same exact thing that you're doing, if they place their money in the right spot.
Sure. So are you asking, Jerry, how business owners can become a private lender, or are you asking how business owners can use private money and raise private money?
Well, let's discuss both. Let's start with how they can become a private lender once they, if they've established a successful business and, they're obviously trying to defer taxes as much as possible. So let's say they do open up that, a 401k for self-employed individuals, or, self-directed IRA or something self-employed kind of retirement account.
Sure. So first of all, if you are interested in becoming a private lender, then you better know who you are lending to. And what I mean by know is know their track record, right? Like, for instance, for all my private lenders, they know I've rehabbed and flipped over 500 houses right around here, in this local record. In this local area. And so, what kind of experience? Does the real estate investor, entrepreneur, know what they're doing? Obviously nobody's going to lend money unless they trust where they are lending to. Now, in my case, I never borrow unsecured money. I always secure the promissory note and collateralize that note by the real estate that I'm purchasing. So all the notes are backed by the real estate. And so that answers the question, how do we protect the private lenders? Well, in the world of real estate, we protect them various ways. Number one, we don't borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value of a property. That way they've got a 25% equity cushion. So if, prices come down before the property is sold, there's plenty of room to bring those prices down, and the private lender is protected and can be made whole. So it's a conservative loan to value. Again, we're not borrowing unsecured. We're going to collateralize that note with the real estate. And then additionally, we name the private lender as the mortgagee on the insurance policy. You see, the private lender is the bank. We're not joint venturing on the deal. The private lender does not own does not have any percent ownership of the property, but they are secured just like the local bank is. So the private lender is the bank. So we name the private lender as the mortgagee, which means if there's ever a insurance claim against the property, the insurance company is going to make that check payable to not only my company, but also to the private lender. So the private lender's got to sign off on that check before it can be cashed. That's another layer of protection. We're also going to name the private lender on the title policy as an additional insured in case there's any title issues down the road. So again, the private lender is protected just like a traditional bank would be protected.
Absolutely. I love that. That's a great way for people to get started. How do you think business owners can utilize these private lending funds to help themselves or to help them kind of grow their own wealth?
Sure. So in that case, you would not be able to secure as a borrower if you're a business owner. You're not backing it by real estate. It would just be unsecured promissory notes. So you would want to put your program together, decide on, what interest rate you're going to pay. I can tell you 8% to people that have never been private lenders before is a very attractive rate, even in today's market. You're going to give them a promissory note. Think about other ways that you can protect the private lender, right? I mean, do you have real estate? The business that you have, do you actually own the building? Could you give them is there a way that you could collateralize the note other than just having a promissory note and it being unsecured? But I would recommend going about it the same way. And that is, you teach the program, here's what you have available, and of course, you want to let them know what are you going to use the money for, right? I mean, obviously in my world, I'm using it to invest in real estate. But what are you going to use the money for? And the only limit is your creativity as to what you want to offer. I mean, how long do you need the money, right? Is this going to be a 1-year note? Is it going to be a 2-year note? That type of thing. And it all comes down to the private lender feeling comfortable, trusting you, and understanding what's the risk, right? Like in my case, if I don't pay them, the property does. Now, they don't want to mess with the property. That's why they want to be a passive investor, a passive private lender, if you will. So think about how can you mitigate the risk of if you don't pay them. How are they protected?
Absolutely. And I think private lending could be a huge benefit for anybody who owns a business. I mean, there's any countless number of things that people need money for in a business sense, and it could be short term. A lot of times it is, and typically the number one thing they go for is these merchant cash advances, which have super high payback terms, and sometimes payments are required daily, weekly, monthly, depending on the length and the amount of money you need. And a lot of times you see business owners get into trouble because they take out an MCA to pay off some debt or help make payroll or whatever the case is, and they do that, but then they get in trouble again in a month or two, and these things start to snowball on each other. And so if, like you said, you're having these conversations with those with some capital to deploy before you need it, you may have that opportunity to say, hey, we had talked about this a while back. I do have a need for some money right now. I need to borrow some funds for a week or two or for a month or two. And here's what I can offer you on payback terms. And there's just a lot of opportunity there. And it's a whole world that I think a lot of, especially blue-collar business owners, have no idea even exists out there.
Sure.
So
absolutely,
really appreciate the info. It's awesome.
Absolutely, Jerry. And you bring up a good point that I made earlier, and it definitely applies in the world of, small business owners. And that is raise the money. Don't use it. But have it over there available before you actually need it.
Yep, 100%. No, this is all great. I really appreciate the info. It's always great to learn about new methods. And obviously, this is a strategy that can be used kind of on both sides of the coin. As a business owner, if you need some quick funds, or on the back end, as you're trying to build that lasting wealth for yourself and your family, you can get into that as well. Once you've reached that point where you're able to put money away and you have that retirement account, being able to utilize these self-directed IRAs or 401ks and help be that private lender to others, either on a short-term basis like yourself, or even in long-term scenarios where people are looking for capital for multifamily syndications, things along that line as well. So very cool. Well, tell our audience a little bit more of, if they want to learn more about what you do and what you teach, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely, Jerry. Thank you for offering that. So I want to let everybody know I'm so excited. I've just recently launched my Private Money Challenge. And what in the world is the Private Money Challenge? Well, it's a 7-day Private Money Challenge. And what happens is it's a series of 7 videos. And each video is only 15 to 20 minutes long, not that long at all. It's very digestible. And when you enroll in privatemoneychallenge.com, you'll instantly receive the very first video. And then the next 6 days at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, you'll get each subsequent video. And so you'll learn all the basics on raising private money, no matter what you need it for. And I promise you, we're going to have a good time, because I'm right there on the videos with you, engaging with you, giving you a little bit of homework to do, to actually put this information into action. And here's how you enroll. Go to www.privatemoneychallenge.com. That's www.privatemoneychallenge.com. Come join me, have some fun, and let's get you some private money.
Awesome. That's great. Well, one more question for you. Tell us about a book that kind of helped you along this path, or helped you learn a little bit of the tools that you have now to, kind of reach these goals that you've had for yourself.
Well, I'm going to share a book that I read years ago that really changed my mindset, and it's still in print. The name of the book is University of Success by Og Mandino. University of Success by Og Mandino. Phenomenal book. Each chapter is very, very short, and he has a number of different authors that are contributing to the book. So University of Success, I highly recommend. But let me do a second one as well.
Yeah, absolutely, please.
Jack Canfield's book titled The Success Principles. The Success Principles. There are 69 success principles in that book, and they are fantastic. And I didn't mention this, Jerry. Another way to be connected and plugged into private money is I'd love to invite your audience to come check out my podcast. I'm now in my 8th year of podcasting. And believe it or not, Jerry, I know you're going to be shocked. The title and name of my podcast is Raising Private Money with Jay Connors. So whatever your favorite podcast platform is, it's easy to find. Just search for Raising Private Money, and I'll see you right there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. A lot of great information, a lot of great ways that we can utilize private capital. I think it's a severely underutilized tool in the small business world. I think just because most people don't know that it's out there, and I think that you gave us a lot of key pointers and a lot of golden information. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and speak to the audience. And I hope everyone checks out your link to we'll put that in the show notes to come to your private money course there. and hope we can stay in touch, and really want to kind of hear about what you're doing and how everything's going, and we'll have to have you back on again in the near future.
Sounds great, Jerry. I'd love to come back. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Jay. Well, that's it for this episode, guys. We will catch you next time.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with